Hey troops, it's June 16, 2009. This is Walker of WalkerX.com. I'd like to talk a little bit today about inflation, deflation, and dollar strength, dollar devaluation, or is the dollar devaluing, is the dollar gaining strength? These are very interrelated topics as far as I'm concerned. I'm not going to talk about dollar devaluation as far as these numbers that are out there where we compare dollars to other countries and stuff like that. To me, your dollar's stronger if you can buy more things with it, or nicer things with it, for the same money as before. One thing I'd like to start with is talk about life happens in cycles, tends to happen in cycles. A cycle could be a 70 or 80 year cycle. A cycle could be a 3 to 5 month cycle. In a 70 year cycle, we tend to experience inflation with very little fluctuations here and there. And because of that, when since we don't really pay attention to the market for a full 70 years of our lives, we may pay attention to a market for, depending on how we got into the market, this, that, and the other, for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, maybe 50 years, who knows. But because of our lifespan, we tend to think in terms of what happens during our life, and during our life, well, we tend to be in that inflationary environment, and so we tend to think things go up in price forever. We tend to think houses go up in price forever, and cars go up in price forever, and this, that, and the other. But a longer term look at things may show that cycles happen and that we need to pay attention to those. I think a very important thing to think about right now is talking about dollar devaluation. People are very worried right now that because the Fed is spending a lot of money, the Fed is printing a lot of money right now, that it's going to devalue the dollar and going to create inflation or hyperinflation. The reason why I don't necessarily agree with that is because there's two things that have to happen in an economy in order for inflation to take place. And that's that more money needs to be pumped into an economy. True, that's happening with the Fed. But part two has to do with velocity of money. You could look that up, or maybe you already know about it. Part two is that money needs to chase products in order for products to go up in value. So you got two things that need to happen for inflation to occur: money coming into the economy and money chasing products for products to go up in value. The more people that want to buy houses, the more houses will go up in value. The more people that want to buy cars and bracelets and rings and cell phones and VCRs and TVs, the more people that want to buy all those things, the more they take their extra money and go out and buy those things, the more the value of those things go up. That is inflation. That is also dollar devaluation at the same time. The dollar is devaluing by inflation happening. The more prices of things are inflated, the more our dollar's purchasing power is worth less. If we compare our dollar today to the dollar of around the 1930s, our dollar today is already very devalued. This to me is a very important point. We're all worried about this devaluation of the dollar, but our dollar today is very devalued. Our dollar today is worth 1 nickel of what it was worth approximately in the 1930s. A nickel. That means our dollar is very devalued. Our dollar today is worth about a dime of what it was worth around the 1960s. So throughout this and the 1930s I just mentioned, well, that was pretty much around the Great Depression. The great drop in the stock market was 1929. So from the Great Depression till now, our dollar is greatly devalued, and inflation has risen quite a bit. We have already inflated a lot. So the question is, do we go from a great dollar devaluation to more devaluation? Do we go from a lot of inflation to more inflation? We are now in a deflationary scenario. It's a scenario close to what happened during the Great Depression. Deflationary scenario means quite simply that products went down in price because people stopped chasing those products. People stopped spending like crazy. They started saving. And as things went down in price, people wanted to not spend more and more because they wanted to wait for things to go down in price even more. So now we're in a deflationary environment, and what people are worried about is the Fed pumping in all this money is going to create inflation or hyperinflation. That's what people are worried about. If that occurs, then the dollar goes to crap. The dollar devalues, and that's what people are worried about. I think the popular opinion today is that the dollar is going to devalue, and what are we going to do? We've got to put our dollars in something else, somewhere else, and that inflation is just going to go crazy. Here's why I really don't agree with that. The Fed is pumping a lot of money into the economy, $1 trillion here and there, whatever. But where's the money going? Right now, the money is going into banks, going into GM. A little bit of money maybe going into some infrastructure, this, that, and the other, a little bit, I don't know. But all this billions of dollars going into banks, banks are in really bad trouble right now. They're in really bad trouble because, well, let me paint one scenario as to why we're in a deflationary environment. One important scenario. All right? Housing went up in value really, really fast. And when that happened, people got into the housing market even faster, which means people are chasing houses with their money, therefore houses will go up even faster. It's kind of a vicious cycle. But when that happened, people started using their credit cards to buy things more and more because people felt wealthy. People felt wealthy because their house was going up in value every month, or every 6 months, or every year, depending on what part of the cycle you're looking at. At the very end, before the housing prices went down quite a bit, the values were going up like month to month, something like that. Now, when the housing prices are going up so well, what people will do is, because people like to buy things, that's our nature, we like to acquire the things that we want, we like to feel wealthy, we like to enjoy life, is people use their credit cards and went and bought things that they wanted, and they didn't really worry about the fact that they owed money on those credit cards. Here's why. Because they weren't thinking that they were in debt. They were buying more and more things with their credit cards because they were thinking, well, my house is going up in such a value that I could sell my house any time, pay off all my credit card debt, and I will be in great shape. But as soon as the housing market fell, and houses stopped being worth so much, then people felt a lot less wealthy. And people instantly tightened up on their spending and stopped spending. So what I'm saying to you is this: the lack of spending caused by this, and is causing everybody to stop spending the way they were before. And this is what's going to oppose the money going into the economy. If the Fed was putting money into the economy and giving us money that we can just buy a lot of things with, things might be different, but they're not. So we're in deflation. The dollar is probably not going to devalue like people think it's going to. And And we're in a deflationary scenario. Thank you.